You are listening to O'Connor and Company. Larry is off today. I'm Cam Edwards, editor of BearingArms.com. Keeping me company, Beverly Hallberg of District Media Group and the Independent Women's Forum. Beverly, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And it was a very busy day on the U.S.-Mexico border on Wednesday as former President Trump visiting the border along with Texas Governor Greg Abbott and a host of officials taking a first-hand look at the U.S.-Mexico border. Tom Homan, former acting director of ICE, currently a senior fellow at the Immigration Reform Law Institute, was among those on hand at the border. He joins us to talk about it now. Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
So I have to ask, the vice president, Kamala Harris, went to El Paso last week, a place where, certainly it is on the U.S.-Mexico border, but not necessarily what you would consider a hot spot. You all were down closer to McAllen, Texas yesterday, which is one of the hotter spots. What did you see there, and how is it different from when you were serving as the acting ICE director?
Well, look, I think the numbers on the border right now, I think everybody can see that the numbers are unprecedented. You look at the children that come across the border. We had more children cross the border this year than any time in the history of the United States Border Patrol. And family units coming across. And look, the difference is we detained them. We detained them long enough to see a judge. And 90% of such Americans who claim asylum never qualify for asylum because either they don't show up in court or they just don't qualify under the rules of asylum. Nothing's changed today because 90% still don't qualify, but what they're doing now is they're not detaining them. As a matter of fact, they're bragging how fast they can release them so they wouldn't be overcrowded. Now, they call that a success. We're releasing so fast, there's nothing to see here, no overcrowding at the Border Patrol facilities. I say that's a problem because when the quicker you release people, it's only going to entice more people to come if they think they're not being detained. So the numbers are higher than in the last 20 years. People aren't being detained. People aren't getting a court date. When we had a surge back in 14-15, and Alejandro Mayorkas was the deputy secretary and Joe Biden was the vice president, they know how we stopped it, the surge in 14-15. We built detention facilities. We detained people. We held them long enough to see a judge. 90% lost. We put them in airplanes and sent them home. The numbers went down. They're doing the complete opposite right now.
And so you know this better than anyone, how bad these numbers are. I think as average Americans, we watch this, and of course we're concerned by the increasing numbers of people coming over here illegally. We hear about the drug trafficking, the human trafficking that is taking place. But from your perspective, what are the impacts of this, especially if we don't prevent this influx from continuing to happen?
Well, there's a lot of impacts. One of the impacts is I was in Arizona just last week on the Arizona border, on the border wall. I was joined by almost 100 sheriffs from throughout the country. And sheriffs told their stories about how the crime is rising in their areas, whether it's high-speed chases, whether it's fentanyl overdoses, fentanyl that comes across that border. You better believe if someone dies from an overdose of fentanyl in Ohio, there's a 90% chance that fentanyl came across the southwest border. Crime skyrocketing. And I talked to just one sheriff on the southwest border. Since January, he has found 44 dead migrants in the brush in his county. Migrants that put themselves in hand of criminal cartels who, when they got sick or started having problems, the cartels abandoned them, they died. 44 in one county in 1 year. And there's a lot of counties in the state of Texas and Arizona, hundreds. So this is a story that the American people aren't hearing. How many deaths are occurring either on our side of the border or in Mexico or in the river, in the desert? Border Patrol's already had over 7,000 saves. 7,000 people they saved so far. Of course, there's hundreds they couldn't save. But the long-term effects, look, schools are already overcrowded in some of these areas where the families are fleeing to. We got trauma centers shutting down because they're overburdened. And it's just when you have a crisis like this on the Border Patrol's already said publicly 40 to 50% of their manpower is no longer on the line. They're changing diapers, making baby food, making hospital runs. When half your Border Patrol is not on the line, that's when the criminal cartels take advantage, and they'll send a group of 200 family groups to one area, tie all the Border Patrol up. Then that's when they move the fentanyl and the MS-13 gang members and the criminals. Right now, Border Patrol's already arrested, and they put this out last week. Over 7,000 convicted criminals have already been arrested trying to cross this border. So at 1,000 to 1,500 a getaway a day, Border Patrol says between 1,000 and 1,500 are not caught every day based on sensor traffic and camera traffic. How many of those 1,500 a day are criminals? How many of those people want to do harm to this country? How many of them are carrying fentanyl? It's a scary, scary world right now because of this crisis.
Absolutely. Talking again with Tom Homan, former acting director of ICE, currently senior fellow at the Immigration Reform Law Institute. And, Tom, you talk about the criminal aspect of this, the drug overdose deaths that are a direct result of the cartel trafficking. But there's also, I think, another health impact here. And I know that the Immigration Reform Law Institute is suing the Biden administration for allowing COVID-infected illegal immigrants into Texas. I mean, look, we're seeing the Delta variant become the dominant strain of COVID around the country. There's a lot of concerns that it's going to lead to a spike in cases. And tell me about this lawsuit against the Biden administration over their COVID policy at the border.
Well, we know for a fact, it's not even a question. We know for a fact that this administration has released hundreds of illegal immigrants into this country that were positive with COVID. We know that is a fact. And the law requires that, people entering this country get a health check to make sure they don't bring disease in this country. That's what the whole Title 42 is based on, which the Biden administration now they're going to end at the end of July. And, the northern – I am from upstate New York. The northern border has been closed. It's still closed. So you go up there and there's no free passing on the Canadian border. However, on the southwest border, thousands of people are being let into the country every day, some with COVID. The detention, the welcoming centers they built to companies that the NGOs that they gave $500 million to one company, an advocate company who are putting these people in hotel rooms at $300 a night. They already had such a high COVID problem that they had to find more hotel rooms because they're trying to keep them separated. So we're detaining people with COVID for a few days and release them. COVID people are being released straight from the border. And we also know out of that 1,000, 1,500 that don't get caught every day, how many of them have COVID? But the Biden administration took the Title 42 authority that Trump says, okay, we want to shut the border down because of Title 42 and COVID. They immediately said, no, we're going to let the children in. We're going to let families in. So they're violating their own, the CDC statute. So we're suing them.
A crisis of their own making. Tom Homan, a former acting director of ICE, senior fellow at the Immigration Reform Law Institute. Tom, thank you so much for your expertise and your insight this morning.
You got it. Thanks for having me.